Okay. So the next drug is isoflurane. It is also known as Sofane. Now this is again a fluorinated anesthetic. Okay, so there are fluoride substitutions on this. If you see the chemistry part, this is a fluorinated anesthetic which was introduced in 1981. Okay, so this is again a currently most widely used agent nowadays. Okay, and before this agent, one more particular anesthetic was introduced, a volatile liquid. This is also okay, Enflurane. Okay, this was an isomer of this isoflurane itself. This was used earlier, but now it has gone out of use. Okay, since isoflurane was introduced, Enflurane has totally gone out of use. Okay, now if you can see the properties, coming to the properties of this isoflurane, it is less potent and less soluble in blood as well as in the tissues, in the adipose tissues, when you compare it with halothane. Okay, so here there will be lot of comparison between the other drugs. Okay, so questions like the difference between the two drugs, like compare and contrast between halothane and isoflurane, may also be asked in exams. Okay, so there are a lot of points of differences as well as there are some points of similarities also. Okay, now if you can compare with halothane, this is less potent and less soluble in blood. Okay, so less potent meaning a little bit higher amount of drug will be required over here as compared to halothane to induce the same degree of anesthesia. So also here the solubility in the blood is less, even in the adipose tissue or in the fatty tissues also the solubility is less. Now this is a plus point. Okay, because the solubility we have seen it is as one of the factor in the pharmacokinetics which will govern the recovery and the induction also. So the solubility in the blood should be less. The solubility in the tissues or its entry into the tissues also should be less. Okay, so it becomes a advantage. So in case of this drug, since it is having less solubility in the blood, the induction will be quick, recovery also will be quicker. And since it is having less solubility in the fats or in the adipose tissue, when you compare it with halothane, it is less soluble. So less of it will enter into the adipose tissue. We have seen that generally the drug starts entering into the adipose tissues and it will remain over there. So less of it will reach the brain, or it will take time to acquire the appropriate amount or appropriate partial pressure in the brain. Okay. Then when you compare it with halothane, because of these properties, now its induction will be rapid, right, as compared to halothane. Since the solubility in the blood is less, obviously the induction will be rapid as compared to halothane. And for the same reason, the recovery from the anesthesia also will be rapid as compared to the halothane. Okay, so they will be induced as well as recovered at a faster rate from the anesthesia when isoflurane is utilized. Okay, so if you can see the amount of the anesthetic which is required, so this can be used both for induction as well as for the maintenance. If you can see induction of anesthesia, it can be done with the amount like 1.5 to 3% of the drug can be used. Okay, it can induce the anesthesia in 7 to 10 minutes. So it is quite quicker. Okay, so within few minutes the anesthesia will be induced. And further, for maintenance of the anesthesia, a little bit lower amount or lower concentration is required. That is 1 to 2% of the anesthetic is sufficient to maintain the anesthesia. Now if you consider the fall in BP, we have seen that along with the halothane, with the administration of the halothane, the fall in BP is produced, cardiac contractility is reduced, vasodilatation is produced. Okay, so the same degree of fall in BP is also seen with this isoflurane. Okay, it is similar to that of halothane. Okay, but the reason behind this fall in BP over here, it is mainly due to the vasodilatation. Okay, in case of halothane, we had seen that the cardiac contractility is reduced, cardiac output is reduced. So these are the additional reasons why the fall in BP is seen. Okay, but here basically the fall in BP is due to the vasodilatation. Cardiac output, which is reduced in case of halothane, is not seen with the isoflurane. Cardiac output is not reduced over here. Again, if you can see the effect on the HR means heart rate. Okay, heart rate is increased over here. In case of halothane, we had seen that the heart rate is decreased. Okay, so even though BP falls, there is no reflex increase in the heart rate. Heart rate falls, vagal stimulation takes place. Okay, baroreceptors are not functioning, so that's why heart rate falls over there. But in case of isoflurane, the heart rate is increased. Okay, now all these cardiovascular effects, these are mainly due to the stimulation of the beta adrenergic receptors. The effect of the isoflurane on the beta adrenergic receptors are the reason for the cardiovascular effects, that is vasodilatation or the increase in the heart rate which is produced over here. Okay. Then if you can see the sensitization of the heart towards the arrhythmogenic tendency of the adrenaline. Halothane, we have seen that it sensitizes the heart towards the arrhythmogenic tendency of ADR. So halothane and ADR should not be given together. But that is not a problem with isoflurane. It does not sensitize the heart towards the adrenergic arrhythmias. No arrhythmias will be precipitated over here. So this is a plus point again. Coronary arteries, another effect on the cardiovascular system. Coronary arteries, which are the arteries which are supplying to your heart. So these are dilated. So because of this, the blood flow to your heart will be increased. Blood supply to the heart will be increased. Okay, so here cardiac depressant action is not shown. Okay, rather blood flowing and the contractility or the work of the heart will be improved by this drug. Okay, then next is effect on the respiration. Here respiratory depression is prominent. Okay, in case of halothane also we had seen that respiratory depression was seen. So over here also respiratory depression is quite prominent. Okay, so you need to give the ventilatory support. Okay, support or assistance is required, otherwise it can be quite dangerous because of the respiratory depression. So hypercarbia can be produced, that is increase in the carbon dioxide amount in the body may take place. Okay, so in order to avoid this, you need to give the ventilatory assistance to that particular person. Otherwise, it can be life-threatening also because of this prominent or severe respiratory depressant action. Apart from this, secretions are also highly increased. Okay, so saliva secretion or the tracheobronchial secretions, these may be increased. So this can be quite dangerous. Okay, because increase in the secretion, and if the person is unconscious, the person will not be able to swallow the saliva. If the respiratory secretions increase, then the ventilation of the person may get affected, or the respiration may get affected, or the oxygenation may get affected. So it can be quite dangerous if the secretions are increased. So for that matter, measures like pre-anesthetic medications can be given, atropinic drugs can be given previously before giving the anesthesia, so that the secretions will not increase even if isoflurane is given. Apart from that, just like halothane, uterine muscles and skeletal muscle relaxation is also similar to that of halothane. Okay, then under halothane we have also seen that they potentiate the neuromuscular blockers. Okay, so this isoflurane also potentiate the neuromuscular blockers, but here there is little bit more potentiation, greater potentiation, that is enhancement of this action of neuromuscular blockers is even greater as compared to halothane. Okay, so dose over here of this neuromuscular blockers, if at all it is supposed to be combined, then the dose reduction is required. Okay, because it can potentiate the action, more amount or more degree of neuromuscular blockage will take place, so it can result in paralysis and other problems, muscular problems may be created. Then if you can see the metabolism of isoflurane, it is negligible. In case of halothane we had seen that it is the only drug, inhalational anesthetic. Out of all the inhalational anesthetic, the halothane is the only drug which significantly get metabolized, that is 20% of the halothane which reaches your systemic circulation gets metabolized. But here in case of isoflurane, the metabolism is negligible. So it is excreted out or eliminated out of the body as it is. There is no metabolism which is taking place. So it is removed out of the body in the form of exhaled air. Okay, along with the exhaled air, it will be removed out of the body. Then this is an advantage. Okay, again this metabolism, no metabolism of isoflurane is also an advantage because of metabolites are not generated. Renal and hepatic toxicity are also ruled out. Okay, in case of halothane, we had seen that one of the metabolite which is generated, that is responsible for the hepatotoxicity. Immunological injury, chemical injury was being caused to the liver. So hepatotoxic it was. Even it was toxic to the kidneys also. Urine output was reduced over there. Okay, but likewise with isoflurane, that these are not the problem. Okay, renal or hepatic toxicity are not encountered. So these are ruled out with the isoflurane. So there are so many advantages. Even post anesthetic nausea and vomiting is also low. Okay, in case of halothane also it was rare to occur post anesthetic nausea and vomiting. With this also it is low. Okay, so no need of any anti-emetic drug as a pre-anesthetic medication. Okay, then one more effect on the pupil size and the light reflex. Under the stages we have seen that as the depth of anesthesia increases, that is as you go into deeper stages of anesthesia, the pupils dilate, especially in the third stage. If you can see plane 3, plane 4, pupils dilate. Okay, but that is not the case with isoflurane. Pupils do not dilate over here. Even the light reflex also, we have seen that it gets lost in the deeper planes, right? Third plane, it gets lost. Okay, light reflex. But that is again not the case with isoflurane. Even at deeper levels of anesthesia, both these are maintained. There is no dilatation of the pupil size, and even the light reflex is maintained. It is not lost. Okay, so that's a difference over here. Then if you can see the vapors which are generated, these are slightly irritant. Okay, so because of these irritant vapors which are generated, it's actually not preferred for induction, though we have seen earlier that its induction is quite quick, right? We have seen because of the low blood solubility, the induction is quite fast. Okay, but because of the irritant vapors which are generated, okay, it will irritate the airways. So because of this, it is not preferred as an induction agent. Okay, but it can be used as a very good maintenance anesthetic. Okay, one more advantage is that it has a better adjustment of depth of anesthesia. Okay, so this is a ideal property which was expected by the anesthetist. Okay, that is, there should be rapid adjustments in the level of anesthesia. Quickly the person should be able to adjust the levels. Okay, by changing the concentration of the anesthetic which is administered, there should be easy adjustments in the depth of anesthesia. So that can be attained with this isoflurane. Okay, so better adjustment in the depth of anesthesia is possible, and as we have seen that toxicity is also low. Cardiovascular toxicity is low comparatively. Hepatotoxicity is not there. Renal toxicity is not there. Even its penetration or accumulation in the other tissues is also ruled out because of its low solubility in the or low lipid solubility also. Okay, so these are the plus points. Okay, so there are many advantages of this isoflurane. That's why it has become more popular. Another advantage is that it does not provoke the seizures. Okay, epileptic attacks are not provoked. Because of this, it is preferred for the neurosurgeries. Okay, so any kind of surgeries in your nervous system to be carried out, this is the anesthetic which is preferred. Okay, isoflurane. And coming to the next drug, that is desflurane. Okay, so this is again a newer all fluorinated congener of isoflurane. So it's derived from isoflurane. All of its substituents have been replaced by fluoride. Okay, so all fluorinated congener of isoflurane, as it is called because of the chemistry. Okay, so now this desflurane, since this desflurane was introduced, again it has gained popularity over isoflurane. Okay, most of the properties, they remain the same. If you can see here, again it is compared with isoflurane. Okay, so certain advantages are also there over the isoflurane. That's why it is preferred over isoflurane nowadays. Okay, it is a highly volatile liquid. Okay, now because of its high volatility, it will easily get converted into vapors. Still, thermostatically heated specialized vapors are utilized over here. Okay, so that a precise amount of drug can be delivered to the patient. Okay, and generally this desflurane, it is used along with the nitrous oxide. Okay, so nitrous oxide for a second gas effect. Okay, it is combined with the nitrous oxide. So nitrous oxide along with oxygen, it is given always. We have seen the reasons why it is combined with oxygen. Okay, for diffusion hypoxia problem. Okay, so this desflurane, it is combined with the mixture of nitrous oxide. Okay, so even less amount of drug is required and precise amount of drug has to be administered. Okay, then coming to its solubility. Okay, again here there is lower lipid solubility and very low blood solubility in the blood as well as in the tissues. Okay, even when you compare it with isoflurane, this is even lower lipid solubility and low solubility in the blood. So again, if you can compare with the isoflurane, the induction and recovery are very quick, even faster than that of isoflurane. And here also the depth of anesthesia can be adjusted very quickly just by changing the amount of or the concentration of anesthetic which is inhaled. So there is a better control over the adjustments of the anesthesia possible with this desflurane. Okay. Now another plus point with this drug desflurane is that the post-anesthetic cognitive and motor impairment. Now generally we have seen with the ether, halothane, the person remains drowsy for a long period of time. Even after the discontinuation of the drug, still the drug will be eliminating from the body. Okay, so your drug will remain in your body for a longer period of time. Okay, but that is not the case with this drug desflurane. So over here the recovery is also very quick, and plus it is removed out of the body very quickly, so that the person gains the cognitive and the motor functions very quickly even after the discontinuation of the drug. Okay, with others what happens is patient will remain drowsy or sedated, or the motor functions will not be gained very quickly, so that the person may have difficulty in walking on his or her own. Okay, so support may be required sometimes, but that is not the case with desflurane. Okay, so person becomes roadworthy very quickly, so the person can be given discharge within few hours after the surgery, if at all the surgery is a minor one, not the major one. Okay, so if a minor surgery is carried out under the influence of desflurane, the person will become roadworthy very quickly, so you can discharge the person very within few hours after the surgery, after the observation. Okay, you can discharge the person. Okay, coming to the potency of this desflurane. Now potency, if you can see, this is 5 times less potent than isoflurane. Though we have seen that there are so many advantages over isoflurane, solubility is less, so induction is quick, recovery is quick. Okay, but the problem is that the potency is less. It is 5 times less potent as compared to isoflurane. Okay, so when you compare desflurane and isoflurane, 5 times higher concentration of desflurane is required as compared to isoflurane to produce the same degree of anesthesia. And because of this high amount or high concentration required for the induction, it can irritate the air passages. Okay, no doubt induction is very quick, but there may be irritation of the air passages. So coughing, breath holding, laryngospasm may be precipitated due to the pungent odor or the irritant odor of the vapors. So vapors are not very pleasant. Okay, so the induction of the anesthesia, though it is quick, but it is not pleasant one because of the odor, the pungent odor of this particular desflurane. The vapors are not very pleasant. A sweet odor is not seen with this particular drug desflurane. So that's why it is not preferred for induction. Okay, so desflurane is also not preferred for the induction because of its irritant nature. Okay, so also rapid induction in case if the person is suffering from any kind of cardiovascular conditions, okay, cardiovascular diseases, it can be dangerous in such individuals if desflurane is used, because rapid induction sometimes result in sympathetic stimulation and tachycardia. So it can be dangerous if at all the person is suffering from hypertension, or if the person is suffering from arrhythmias, then the condition may get worsen. Okay, so that's why if the person is suffering from any kind of cardiovascular diseases, then caution has to be followed while giving this desflurane anesthesia. Then if you can compare it with isoflurane in terms of degree of respiratory depression, okay, then muscle relaxation, vasodilatation, fall in BP, all these properties remain same as that of isoflurane. Even the cardiac contractility and coronary circulation are maintained. That is, no cardiac depressant action is seen, just like in case of isoflurane. Over here also cardiac contractility is not affected. Coronary circulation, because coronary arteries may be dilated, so the blood circulation to your heart is well maintained over here. Then even this drug also lacks the seizure provoking potential. Even with desflurane, arrhythmogenic tendency, okay, sensitization of the heart towards the arrhythmogenic tendency is also not seen with this drug also. Okay, so also liver and kidney, this drug desflurane is also not toxic to the liver and kidney, just like in case of isoflurane. Okay, so all the properties, most of the properties remain the same. Even the metabolism, in case of isoflurane we have seen that negligible, it is not at all metabolized. Okay, so it is excreted out as it is. So in this case also desflurane also is exhaled unchanged. There is no metabolism taking place with desflurane. Okay, but as such it can be used as a alternative to isoflurane, because induction and recovery are quite quick as compared to the isoflurane. Okay, so this drug is preferred over the isoflurane. However, one care you should take that if at all closed circuit is used. We have seen under the administration, because the methods by which the inhalational anesthetics are administered. Over there we have seen there is open system, closed system, when machines are used, okay, for vaporized drugs. So in case if the closed circuit is used, soda lime through which your exhaled air should pass to remove carbon dioxide and all. So this soda lime should be fresh and well hydrated. Okay, so this care has to be taken if the closed circuit is used with this drug desflurane. Coming to the next drug, that is sevoflurane. This is again a newly introduced polyfluorinated anesthetic, but here the properties are intermediate in between isoflurane and desflurane. Okay, we have seen that the isoflurane is more potent. Okay, it has more solubility in the blood and the tissues as compared to desflurane. Okay, so desflurane is less potent, 5 times less potent. We have seen solubility in the blood is also less as compared to isoflurane. Okay, but here in case of this drug sevoflurane, the solubility in the blood and tissues as well as the potency, okay, it is less than isoflurane. Okay, desflurane is less potent as compared to isoflurane, and the solubility is also less. But if you can see sevoflurane, the properties lies in between. Okay, so solubility in the blood will be less than that of isoflurane, okay, but it will be more than that of desflurane. Even the potency is less than that of isoflurane, but it is surely more than that of the desflurane. So in terms of these two, okay, solubility in the blood and tissues and the potency, it lies, the properties lies in between these two congeners, okay, isoflurane and the desflurane. Okay, now because of the lower blood solubility again, okay, as compared to isoflurane, again the solubility, the blood is low. Okay, so induction and the recovery from the anesthesia both are fast. Okay, and you can achieve rapid adjustment in the changes in the depth of anesthesia can also be possible. So easy adjustment with the depth of anesthesia is also possible. Now this is an advantage. Okay, absence of pungency. We have seen with the earlier drug desflurane that the odor is pungent, right? Okay, so it is irritant. So such irritant vapors are not generated with sevoflurane. For the same reason, the induction, no doubt it is fast over here, okay, and plus the induction is also pleasant. Okay, so this drug sevoflurane can be used as a inducing agent also. Okay, so because of this property, induction is quite pleasant, so it is well accepted by the patient, even by the pediatric patient, that is small children also accept this drug very well because of the pleasant induction. Even the recovery is also smooth. Okay, and the orientation and the cognitive and motor functions are regained quickly as desflurane, because the person becomes roadworthy. Just like under desflurane, we have seen that the person becomes roadworthy very quickly within few hours, so that you can discharge the person after a minor surgery. So similar way the person can gain the cognitive and the motor functions with the sevoflurane also, so that you can discharge the person even after the few hours also after the surgery. Okay, but the problem is that cost is high with this drug. Okay, so it's a little bit costly drug, and even the high flow open system are required. Okay, in under open system we have seen the flow should be high. Okay, so this machineries make it, the inhalational techniques also make it a little bit more expensive to use. Okay, so it is preferably used in the developed countries rather than the developing country. Okay, then if you can see sympathetic stimulation which was produced by desflurane, so that is not a problem over here. It does not cause any sympathetic stimulation and airway irritation during the rapid induction. Okay, so that's why desflurane is not used for the induction. That's a drawback why it is not used. It irritates the air passages, and also because of the sympathetic stimulation, it is a problem in the cardiovascular patients also. But that is not a problem with the sevoflurane. Okay, so it does not have sympathetic stimulatory property, and it does not irritate the airway. So it is quite safer even if it induces very rapidly. Then fall in BP is seen. It is due to the vasodilatation as well as modest cardiac depression. So a little bit cardiac depression is seen over here. Okay, unlike your previous drug desflurane. Okay, but here vasodilatation is produced, because of which the fall in BP is seen. In addition to that, little bit cardiac depression also is seen, which adds to the fall in BP. Okay. Then respiratory depression, absence of seizure, arrhythmia, precipitating tendency, same as that of isoflurane. So respiratory depression is seen over here. Seizures cannot be precipitated, or it cannot sensitize the heart towards the arrhythmogenic tendency of ADR. Okay, just like isoflurane. So in these terms of these properties, it is same as that of isoflurane. If you can see the metabolism, about 3% of this sevoflurane is also metabolized. But the metabolites which are generated, these are not enough to produce any kind of kidney or liver damage. Actually, the metabolite in case of halothane, we have seen that the metabolite which is generated is responsible for the toxicity to the kidney and the liver. But that is not a problem. Though it is metabolized, metabolism is very much negligible, only 3% is metabolized, and whatever metabolites are generated, they do not harm or they do not produce any toxicity on the kidney and liver. Okay. Now, one care has to be taken with the use of this drug sevoflurane while administration. In case if a closed system is used, soda lime it gets degraded by the soda lime. So it can react with the soda lime. Okay, so it is not preferably used with the closed circuit. So that was another ideal property which was expected, right? Your anesthetic should not react with the rubber tubings and the soda lime. But over here sevoflurane, it cannot be given by the closed circuit because it is degraded by the soda lime. It reacts with the soda lime, so it cannot be preferably given by this closed system. So that's why these open systems have to be used, which makes it more costly. Okay. So this finishes the inhalational anesthetics. Coming to the next part, that is intravenous anesthetic, the next class. So as the name implies, these drugs have to be administered by IV route. They are injected IV. Okay. And there are certain agents under this. Again, there is sub-classification as fast acting drugs and slow acting drugs. So generally the fast acting ones, okay, thiopentone, sodium, methoxytone, propofol. Okay, so all these drugs are acting very quickly. That is, after injection, they induce the anesthesia very quickly. Okay, so this is the reason why they are used as an inducing agent. If you can see, after the IV injection, they produce the loss of consciousness within 1 arm brain circulation time. That is the time required for your blood circulation from your arm to reach your brain. So it's round about 11 seconds time, less than that. Okay, so it induces anesthesia very quickly, within few seconds, not even minutes. It can induce the anesthesia within a few seconds. That's why these agents, the fast acting drugs, they are preferably used as the inducing agent. Okay, and generally the anesthesia is maintained after the induction of the anesthesia. The anesthesia is maintained by other inhalational agents. So combination of anesthetics is used. One anesthetic is used for induction over here, and other anesthetic, the inhalational type of anesthetics which we have seen so far. So one of those agents are preferably used to maintain the anesthesia. Okay, so over here the high amount of administration of this inhalational agent for induction is ruled out over here. Okay, so you need not introduce a very high amount of inhalational anesthetic. So other complications may be ruled out. Apart from this, it is no doubt used as an inducing agent. Apart from that, it can also be used as a sole anesthetic. Okay, when it is supplemented, most of these, when they are supplemented along with the analgesics and muscle relaxant, alone these drugs can also be used as anesthetic for minor procedures. Coming to the first drug under this, that is thiopentone sodium. So it's a ultra short acting thiobarbiturate. We have seen under sedative hypnotic, we have seen the general pharmacology over there. Okay, so a few properties are discussed over here in terms of general anesthesia. Now this drug is highly soluble in water, and the solution which is obtained is highly alkaline in nature. Okay, so it is not quite stable. Okay, it should be prepared freshly just before the injection. Okay, so prepared injections are not available. It has to be prepared freshly just before giving the injections. Okay, so they are injected IV, okay, intravenous as the name implies with these agents. So it is injected IV and the dose used is 3 to 5 milligrams per kg. Okay, and it is administered as a 2.5% solution. Okay, so this is the concentration of the solution, and this is the amount to be administered depending upon the weight of the person. You are supposed to administer the amount of thiopentone sodium. Okay, so it will produce anesthesia or unconsciousness within 15 to 20 seconds. Okay, so within a few seconds the anesthesia will be induced by this particular drug. Yeah, however, while injecting, care has to be taken not to extravasate this particular solution. So while injecting, the injection should go exactly into the veins. If at all there is extravasation, that is, if the solution comes out of the blood vessels, or if there is inadvertent accidental intra-arterial injections, then intense pain can be produced, and in that area where you have injected, necrosis and gangrene may occur in that particular area. So you should be very careful while injecting. Make sure that you are injecting in the vein itself. Okay, so it has to be administered very carefully. Now coming to the kinetics part of this drug, the lipid solubility is quite good with this agent. They are highly lipid soluble, so they can cross the blood-brain barrier very easily. So here they enter the brain almost instantaneously. That is the reason why they induce very quickly. Okay, so initially this drug, because of the high lipid solubility, okay, it can enter the brain very easily, and it has rapid distribution also. Because of its high lipid solubility, it gets distributed very rapidly, so that those organs which are highly perfused ones, or the vital organs, they get very large amount of drug. Okay, so brain is one of the vital organs, so brain gets very high amount of drug initially. Okay, so initially it gets very high amount, so that's why it induces very quickly. Okay, but later on what will happen? After some time what will happen? The drug will start gradually, it will start entering into the other less vascular tissues, like say for example it will start entering into the muscles, the fats and all. Okay, because it is highly lipid soluble, so it can gain entry into almost all of the tissues. So initially it will enter the brain very quickly, that's why it is inducing very quickly. Okay, but later on after some time what will happen? The drug will also start entering into the other organs. Okay, so because it has started entering into the other organs, what will happen to your blood concentration? The blood or the plasma concentration will fall. Now because the plasma concentration falls, the gradient will get reversed now. Okay, because the blood concentration is falling, whatever has diffused into the brain, okay, the high amounts that has reached your brain, so drug will start coming out of the brain because it remains in equilibrium. We have seen under kinetics, right? Okay, so any drug we have seen that it attains an equilibrium across the membrane, okay, or across the barriers. So what will happen? It will quickly diffuse back from its brain, since it is having high lipid solubility. So the rate at which it is entering the brain, at the same rate it will also start coming out of the brain. Okay, so it will diffuse back from the brain. So what will happen? The concentration in your brain will fall. Okay, so because your concentration in your brain falls now, the person gains the consciousness. So person can regain the consciousness within 6 to 10 minutes, because your drug is entering into the other tissues, blood levels fall, so whatever has entered the brain initially, very quickly all that will start coming out of your brain. So brain is your site of action. Okay, so since your drug comes out of your brain, obviously there will be recovery from the anesthesia, because brain is your site of action. Okay, so concentration in your brain will fall and the person will gain consciousness within 6 to 10 minutes. Okay, so if you can see the duration of action in terms of anesthesia, it is very, very short. Induction is quick within few seconds, but recovery is also quick, right? 6 to 10 minutes, a very short time span. Within 6 to 10 minutes you cannot finish any kind of procedure or operative conditions, right? Okay, so your anesthesia has to be maintained over a period of time. But here what is happening? Because of this redistribution, your drug is coming out from the site of action and the action is getting terminated within 6 to 10 minutes. Mind it, the drug is still in your body. Okay, it is not eliminated from the body. Its terminal elimination T half-life is 8 to 12 hours. Okay, ultimately it will get metabolized. Hepatic metabolism is seen with this particular drug. So ultimate disposal of this drug is by hepatic metabolism. Okay, so its terminal T half-life is 8 to 12 hours. So it will remain in your body for a long period of time. But what has happened? Why recovery has taken place? Because it has come out from your brain. Okay, so there is quick recovery seen with this particular agent. Okay. Then residual CNS depressant action is seen. Okay, that is your motor functions may be depressed for more than 12 hours, because this drug remains in your body for a longer period of time. Though you have gained consciousness, still you will be drowsy or sedated. Okay, so motor functions are not regained very quickly, so the person is not roadworthy. You cannot discharge the person very quickly, okay, after this thiopentone is administered. Okay, another property is that it is a poor analgesic. Okay, so we need good analgesia with the anesthetic, but that is lacking over here. So you are not supposed to carry out any kind of procedures only under the influence of thiopentone. Okay, otherwise the person may show excitement, struggle, shout if at all you carry out any kind of procedures. Okay, there may be devastating changes taking place. Okay, because it has poor analgesic property. So you need to give either opioid analgesic or a nitrous oxide has to be given. Okay, in addition to thiopentone. Otherwise, the person may show reflex action. Also, it is a weak muscle relaxant. So you also need a skeletal muscle relaxant also to be given along with the thiopentone sodium. It does not have very good muscle relaxant property, which is again expected from a anesthetic, but thiopentone sodium does not possess it. Then respiratory depression, yes, it is induced, okay, but it cannot be very severe with the inducing doses. Okay, but if at all large doses are used, then it can be a severe one, respiratory depression. But in case if this thiopentone sodium is used only for induction, respiratory depression will not be marked. It will be just a transient one. It will be recovered very quickly. Okay. Then effects on the BP. BP also falls immediately. Now BP falls upon injection because of the vasodilatation. Okay. So because of vasodilatation, blood pressure will fall, but again recovery from this fall in BP is also quite rapid. Okay, and another problem is that if at all there is hypovolemia, that is if the blood volume is low, or if the person is suffering from shock or sepsis, okay, if these complications are present, then cardiovascular collapse may take place. So but blood circulation will be totally affected, so that it can be life threatening also. So you should be cautious if these conditions are present. Then if you can see, it does not sensitize the heart towards the ADR. Arrhythmias are not precipitated. Okay, it does not sensitize the heart, just like your halothane we have seen. Okay, then cerebral blood flow, it is reduced. Okay, both due to fall in BP as well as constriction of the cerebral blood vessels. Though vasodilatation is produced over here, but in case of your brain, the blood vessels are constricted, okay, and fall in BP is seen. So obviously the blood flow to your brain will be reduced. However, though less amount of blood is reaching your brain, still the cerebral oxygenation of your brain is not getting affected over here, because oxygen consumption of your brain is increased and perfusion is maintained even though there is vasoconstriction. Okay, so sufficient amount of perfusion is maintained over here. Coming to the adverse effects, laryngospasm may occur if respiratory secretions or other irritants are present, or in case of intubation if it is tried. Okay, when the anesthesia is light, then laryngospasm can be precipitated. Okay, so to avoid this, you can give atropine as a pre-anesthetic medication. So all these consequences will be ruled out, secretions will be reduced. Okay, and administration of the succinylcholine. Okay, so here atropine can be given as a pre-anesthetic, that is before anesthesia, and succinylcholine, this can be given immediately after the thiopentone. Okay, so it's a skeletal muscle relaxant, so it can be given immediately after thiopentone. Mind it, both have to be given by IV route, but both should not be mixed in the same syringe because they react chemically. This interaction we have seen under succinylcholine also. So though they are injected, they are not supposed to be mixed in the same syringe. They have to be injected separately. Other adverse effects include, during recovery from the anesthesia of thiopentone sodium, shivering and delirium may be produced. Then pain in the post-operative period may produce restlessness in the person. Okay, so analgesics have to be given. Post-operative nausea and vomiting, this may be seen, but they are uncommon. Then intermittent porphyria may be precipitated in those who are susceptible. So it should be contraindicated in such individuals. Coming to the uses, it is mainly used as an inducing agent, and sometimes it is a sole agent also. It is used for shorter, surgeries. Other uses, it can be used to control the convulsions also, because it has anticonvulsant property also, and sometimes it is used in narcoanalysis of criminals, okay, though to bring out the truth. So this drug is given by IV infusion, so person will be drowsy. Sub-anesthetic doses are given over here, person will be drowsy and will tell the truth. Okay, the next drug is methoxytone sodium. Similar to thiopentone it is, but 3 times more potent. So less amount of drug is required over here, and also induction is quicker, induces very fast, and duration of action is even shorter than that of thiopentone. Okay, that's because it metabolizes very rapidly. T half-life is just 4 hours. Okay, so the person becomes roadworthy more quickly as compared to thiopentone. However, excitement may be seen little bit during induction and recovery. So induction and recovery are not quite pleasant. Next drug is propofol. Now when this propofol was introduced, it has totally overcome the use of thiopentone as an IV anesthetic for induction. This is used as an oily liquid employed in it is an oily liquid, so it is employed in the form of a 1% emulsion. It is emulsified and then it is administered. Here the action starts in 15 to 45 seconds and it again lasts for a short period of time, okay, 5 to 10 minutes. Okay, so it is induction is very quick because it distributes very quickly, brain it will reach very quickly, okay, but the recovery is also very fast. Okay, so maintenance anesthesia is required over here. If you can see the terminal T half-life, it is 100 minutes. So this is again much shorter as compared to thiopentone sodium because it is metabolized very rapidly. Okay, so because of its quick recovery, intermittent injections may be required, or this drug is intermittent meaning in between, or this drug may be infused continuously. So continuous infusion of this propofol may be given for maintenance of the anesthesia. Then it lacks the airway irritancy, so no bronchospasm is produced, so it is preferred in asthmatics. It's a plus point. Okay, and since the person becomes roadworthy, outpatient, it is preferred, so person can be discharged very quickly. Okay, then post-operative nausea, vomiting, this is another advantage, it is low. Okay, so patient acceptability is very good. However, excitement may be seen and involuntary movements may be seen in certain individuals. Apnea, induction apnea, difficulty in breathing may be seen. Then the fall in BP may be produced mainly due to the vasodilatation, and cardiac depression also may be seen. Okay, and heart rate remains unchanged, or even it may decrease because baroreceptors are not functional over here, those which determine the stretch reflex. Okay, then respiratory depression, this is also seen, it is more marked as compared to thiopentone sodium. Then cerebral blood flow is reduced just like thiopentone sodium, but oxygen consumption is increased. Another problem is injection. While injection, pain is produced, so this can be reduced by giving lidocaine along with it, which is a local anesthetic. Okay, so if you can see the uses, it is used as an inducing agent, and plus in sub-anesthetic doses it can be also used to sedate the person who is admitted to ICU, who are critically ill persons. Okay, so they can be used. However, it is not used in small children, and even prolonged use is also not advisable because of the problems like metabolic acidosis, lipemia, increase in the fat content in your blood, and heart failure even in adults. So it is not preferably used for long term use. The last drug is etomidate. This is another inducing agent, okay, with a brief duration of action, that is action lasts only for 4 to 8 minutes, so even shorter as compared to thiopentone. Okay, and it produces little bit cardiovascular and respiratory depression. So these are advantages, but the disadvantages are there. Motor restlessness may be produced, rigidity may be produced, pain on injection, nausea and vomiting upon recovery, that is post anesthetic nausea and vomiting may be produced, and also it is a poor analgesic. So it is not quite favorable, or it is not preferred. Propofol is the one which is preferred nowadays. Okay. So we'll stop here.